be the change. Beautiful chicken soup for Indian soul. David. I met David for the first time during the cafeteria a writers forum meet. We had corresponded earlier over mail, leaving comments or suggestions on each other's write-ups. David, who's an American, has been in India for over a year studying Indian classical music and he's also training in Sharangi, who resides in Bhopal, and lessons in rare instruments called Vichitravina. You would think that David is essentially into music. Well, he checked up his 20-year career in US law firm to pursue his passions, and his passions are not just confined to music. He has a great love for poetry and enjoying painting too. David mesmerized us with his amazing rendition of a ghazal. It was doubly amazing as it was conceived and rendered in English, with being faithful to its Urdu style and structure. Perhaps for all of us, it was a novel experience. Coming through him, the words felt like silk, smooth and soft. We all lost ourselves somewhere in its seductive and soothing folds. A few lines from him. Irrational joy, my desire for sending you ghazals. Once actually toying with fire, when sending you ghazals. The weight of my utterance deepens. Does gold feel this heavy? It's weird how my arm doesn't tire when sending you ghazal. David sang 10 of his couplets out of the 25 that he had written of course. We volleyed him with questions. I asked, ghazals are something foreign to you, yet you have mastered the nonsense beautifully. How did you manage this? He said that the format had caught his attention through books on ghazals that he read in the US, and since then he has been working on it steadily. In fact, he has been blogging on many forums and thrown open his creations for feedback and criticism. He added, the idea is to stick to the form and yet find a way to express oneself through it. Neither giving up the form nor one's expression, but endeavoring for a creation which synthesizes both. It does seem difficult in the beginning, but soon he finds his special contributor, and even though he's in the box per se, the creation is still something out of the box. Slowly and steadily, I learned the principle of cadence, of using the most appropriate expression, of looking out for words which were neater and more compact. I became a student trying to learn whatever I could from every suggestion that came my way, always testing it over and over again in flow, expression and rhythm. Very soon the form became me. What struck me was the effort that must have gone into mastering the form of poetry, swelling to his milieu. His condition was, of course, outstanding and showed his deep understanding and appreciation of this vocal form of poetry. Ghazals have to be recited in a very specific way. His immersion was complete, and this served to enhance the effect of the recital. When I was in David, with pure love of the subject and incubated by the expectations of money, fame, recognition, what guided his interest was his curiosity of the form and the longing to reach its depths. Most of us have simply rushed through our readings, conscious of the audience and certain of our creations. For him, during the recital, nothing and no one existed. The world during those few moments, meant not just for him but us as well, was just the ghazal that was being presented. Yes, through him, we all experienced trance. I wondered what was the last time I myself had approached the subject with such perseverance, thoroughness, and integrity. Somewhere in the rigmarole of working within deadlines, achieving targets, following rules, being diplomatic, creating a balance, I had turned it did. My learning ignored calls for the deeper understanding and comprised on my passion as I did just enough to keep the momentum going. Yes, perhaps I have expected the maximum out of myself, yet I have done so purely from what others want out of me. I have forgotten the pleasure that comes from learning and doing things on its own joy. Interestingly, I had not even realized what I was missing until I saw what David had. Yes, life is good and I'm enjoying my work, but after meeting David, I felt that life can be still more beautiful, meaningful, and perhaps more in tune with my within. Aha, the D. I was very thin when I was in school, and because of this accounts, I could never defend myself. I was dragged a lot of in school and later in bed spillage too. I remember Ram Kumar Panhani. He was a backbencher. When I sat in the third row, every time he walked past me, He would hit me on the back of my head just for fun. I would hurt and cry inside, but put up a brave face and sometimes even smile and try to shrug off the incident. At night, in the dorm, I would wonder how long this would go on. When I finished school and went to bed Spilani, I found that ragging in the school had been nothing but, despite the fact that it was severe, I found ragging in college to be essentially harmless. We had to clean our seniors' room and do the things like wear my uncle's Pink's pajamas. I remember having the inferiority complex, though I hadn't started shaving yet. I was 16 years and 4 months when I started college, and so in the bit of to look manly, I thought of trying out smoking. I procured some cigarettes and smoked one. It was well, I think immediately after that first puff, I felt giddy and fell down on my bed. I remember feeling even worse. I could not succeed at something as simple as smoking. I vowed that I would continue trying till I would blow smoke ring, like I had seen in the hero do in our Hollywood flicks. And I did it in a month's time. I could smoke and I could blow smoke rings. I looked stylish with a fork or so, I thought. I loved taking photographs with the cigarette between my fingers. I was a master and the cigarette was my slave. Victory. But reality was different. I was a slave and the cigarette my master. Even though I tried, I could not stop. My lungs got affected, my health was deteriorating. I tried to stop several hundred times during my engineering days. Then when I did the MBA and then when I began working, I could not. I did score temporary victories, but some lasted a week, a few lasted a month. A couple of times I could refrain from smoking for 6 months at a stretch, but then I would go back. My resolve crumbled, my esteem a little bit lower, and I would berate myself. Tried self-hypnosis, but absolutely nothing worked. A whiff of smoke from someone smoking nearby or even far away would gently curl and into my nostrils, and like an addict, I would submit to its command and light a cigarette. I smoked for 28 years of my life. How many cigarettes, how many rupees, and what cost to my lungs? In 2000, I went to the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra. Why, I still do not know, but I'm not a religious guy, nor did I believe in Shiva or any other god then. Before my departure, I remember I was sitting in the Louis Khan Plaza lawns near the steps after my last class or that year. I smoked the last cigarette and made a deal with Lord Shiva. I said to him that I would not smoke for the entire Yatra for 30 days, from the day I departed to the day I returned. That was my responsibility, but once I returned, the responsibility became his. Since he is the infinite, wasn't it only fair that he shouldered the larger burden between us? I almost heard him say, "It's a deal." It has been 9 years now, and I haven't smoked a cigarette. I kept my part of the bargain, and he has kept his part of the bargain. Beautiful, Lord, awesome. My little step. One nice thing about the location of my flat is that it is a 2-minute walking distance from the Mo grocery store. I generally go to Mo from home, so I take bags with me, and what I'm buying is small stuff. I just put it in my purse, the size of which I actually chose for this purpose. When you go to Mo, like any other grocery store, the cashier or his assistants automatically start to put things in a plastic bag. The first few times I got strange looks and had to repeat myself when I asked them not to put my groceries in plastic bag. Over the course of the couple of trips, I kept getting the same cashier who asked me for the third time as he rang my bells why I didn't take their bags. I quickly explained that plastic bags are bad for the environment, cause cancer and the deaths of the cows. When I was about to leave, he stopped me and asked, "Madam, can you fill out your comment form?" I looked at the form about to tell him that I needed to leave when he interjected my thoughts with, "I think you should share why you didn't want to take a plastic carrying bag." I looked at the form and again my mind told me that there was no point. But I quickly filled out the form stating that more should either stop providing plastic bags or encourage customers to bring their own bag by potentially providing a financial incentive like stores in North America do, as that will show that the company cares about the environment, which is good for the temporary company's image. I had to pitch it in corporate terms. After that day, whenever the cashier rang up by bill, He never gave me a plastic bag. I was happy that at least my small action had made one other person learn about the danger of the plastic bags. The biggest surprise came a month or two later. I walked into more after a long time and noticed a new sign on the announcement board behind the cashier and near the vegetables. It read, "Please minimize the use of plastic bags." More had not stopped giving plastic bags, but it at least had taken one step in the right direction. Who said that you can't be the change? Wow, one life. Our car, which was zooming up the Jamshedpur Calcutta highway, slowed down. Ahead lay two men injured and bleeding, surrounded by the crowd of people simply staring. Someone darted out a crowd towards us. "Please, sir, help us. My friend is bleeding profusely. Please take them to the hospital." Without a moment of thought and nonsense, a response was immediately given. "We have no place to accommodate them." The person driving said, shifting gears to speed away. "But, Pa, we would have easily adjusted. They needed help badly." "Dimple, don't act like a child. Where do you think we could have made place for the two of them?" "Fine, perhaps not both, but at least one of them would have been fit, Papa." Then came from my younger brother Umayyan, and from my father. This was too much to bear. How could we kids question his judgment? Our audacity knocked hard against his toppling walls of ego. "You kids simply don't understand the consequences of getting involved in an accident. The work doesn't end with helping the people at the doors of the hospital. I would have been running around police stations for the next couple of months and wasting my resources. I have no intentions of involving my name in the police, and the others could have also helped. Why us?" "But Pa, it is Dimple. Now keep quiet. Don't argue with your father," the mother interrupted. Through the day, my thoughts lingered with those two men. I wondered what had happened to them. I prayed and hoped that someone who didn't have my father's ideology had helped them. My teenage spirit rebelled, and it was hard to accept that it was my father who had ended up not helping them. Why did helping a dying man get to the hospital have to do with the cops? The next morning, I scanned the newspaper for the news of the injured man. There it was. It told that his two killed in an accident on any study train. So they finally died. I kept thinking, what insincerity. They teach us moral lessons to do what is right. I could not talk to my father. Perhaps somebody deep inside I held him responsible for his death. Time passed and the memory of the incident faded. My mind was occupied with the many things that were going on, one of which was Raksha Bandhan. I was especially looking forward to the festival in August, 2 days before Raksha Bandhan. Umang stayed back in school for basketball practice, and hour after he was supposed to have returned, there was no sign of him, and we began to get worried. All calls to the school elicited only his response. "All players left the premises at 4:30. We have confirmed the coach. Sorry, we have no further information." I went quickly to inform Mr. Kapoor, our neighbor, and Pa and I immediately went out to look for Amma. Just near the school crossing, we saw a crowd. Yes, it was another accident. Pa did not pay much regard to the crowd and made resume to the search until some intuition made him turn back. Pa and I went through the crowd and came to a stunt hall. There, lying on the road, was a young boy. The uniform, the burnt pant, and the white shirt told us it was somebody from the same school as Erwang's. Pa bent to take a closer look and was shocked into immobility. I had turned my head away, but then slowly turned towards the boy again, all the time thinking, "Please, please, I hope it is not Umang." The final look scattered my prayers, and I stood staring at my own younger brother. Mr. Kapoor lifted Umang in his arms, and we drove to the nearest hospital. Half an hour later, the doctor appeared with the news that Umang had succumbed to his wounds. Had he been brought in time, perhaps he would have saved him. We could have saved him, the doctor said. I was shocked. My only brother had been snatched from me. I was filled with anger. I wanted to scream and shout, "Umang died, Pa, because people did to him what you did to somebody. He died because people shrugged off their responsibility onto someone else's shoulder. He died because the world did not have a minute to spare for humanity. A tragedy has completely changed my father. Despite the rush or the hour, he always stops to help someone in need. It took Umang's death to finally make him realize the value of a human life, and he now realizes that even one's life, whoever it is, is precious. This change taught me as well, and I look at as my responsibility to help her remain strong in his resolve to change, as I no longer held any grudges against him. It was a new start, and I'm proud to call him my father. Beautiful. The dignity of labor. It was 1 in the morning. The room smelled strange. I saw him next to me, deep in slumber. I went to the bathroom and saw the person for the spread. He had refused straw drinks in the previous night, must have thrown up all over the wash basin. The basin was clogged and the stink inside was unbearable. The little angry, I returned to the room with half a mind to wake him up and ask him to clean up. I would hear him soft snores and knew that he needed to sleep to be normal in the morning. This happened when we were vacationing in Dubai during the Diwali holidays. I called up the reception and in an embarrassed tone explained the problem. It was a 5-star property, and the reception promised to send someone over within a minute. Before hanging up, I requested him to send a person with a pump to clear the basin out. I went and sat on the bed, facing the person who would be cleaning my husband's vomit at 5 in the morning. He rang the bell. Asian, surely. Looked Indian. Could have been the Bangladeshi. His good morning settled my doubts. He was surely from India, perhaps a Keralite. I guessed it was the bathroom door. All he said in his perfect English was, "Just give me a few minutes, madam." Since I did not see him carrying any tool to clear the blockage, I said, "Do you want to go and fetch a pump to clear the mess?" He answered as politely, "I have done this before, madam. A pump is not what is required." I sat and sat on the bed and waited for him to clean up. I could hear him through the closed door. He emptied out the dustbin, took the plastic cover off and used the bin in the drain out of the filth from the basin with his hands. Afterwards, he cleaned the bin, stuffed the plastic in again, perhaps washed his hands and then opened the bathroom door. He said, "It was done, madam. Perhaps you should ring up housekeeping to send someone in with a room freshener." I asked him to make the call to the housekeeping and came back to him extending a 100 dirham note, which is about 1100 rupees in our currency. I said, "I'm sorry." He said, "Madam, I do this at least 10 times a month. It does not hurt so much now." I requested him to wait till the housekeeping man arrived. Many questions circled my mind. Why did he opt for such an unpleasant job? Is money everything? Surely decent jobs are available in India too. Besides, I felt that I still needed to do something more to make up for what I had made him do. We chatted for about 15 minutes, and those minutes will be etched in my mind forever. Mr. Ramesh was indeed from Kerala. He had been in Dubai for the past 18 years, before which he was in Kuwait for a similar job. He worked in night shift as a janitor for 6 days a week, 11 months a year. 12 months on what kept him going was for the entire year. It was his official paid leave, which he spent in a small village with his wife, children, and parents. Night shifts earned him more money, about 30% more, though there was more mess to be cleaned up like this. I asked him, "Why do you do this? And that too, so far away from your people's family?" He replied that with as much dignity, "My son just got admission in an engineering college and my daughter passed her 10th boards with a distinction. I can provide my mother with her daily medicines as she suffers from severe arthritis, and my father, who has cleaned toilets all his life, can finally sit back and enjoy his cup of strong South Indian coffee with a newspaper. My job here in Dubai amidst people alien to me means my son will not be forced to do this for a living. He will be an engineer in a respectable company. My daughter, who wants to be a doctor, will at least not be required to suppress ambitions because of the lack of the funds. Tell me, madam, can you think of one reason why I should not do this job? Besides, who cared enough to ask me about myself? I have already forgotten what I did and remember only the fellow Indian who showed empathy. I shook my head and thanked him for teaching me my most valuable lesson at 5 in the morning, so far away from my country, yet with my people. Beautiful. The finger bowl. It had been a thoroughly enjoyable evening in the Sheraton. We were celebrating our son's entry into the world of the wage earners and had just finished dinner with my mother-in-law. There's something that shocked us into realizing that everything was not quite all right with her. She picked up the finger bowl and began to drink from it. She looked surprised, even gently puzzled at the consternation and the horror that erupted around the table. The one act made us take a serious note of what everyone had till then, with amusement or irritation, accepted as behavioral lapses. Tall, slim, attractive in her youth, my mother-in-law had grown only more elegant and gracious as she grew older, always willing to help out and constantly keeping busy. She ran a tight ship and lived in her own house when she was not visiting her children. Life had not exactly been a bed of roses for this gentle lady. While her children were growing up, an absent-minded husband and line of duty and erratic paychecks made her adept at stretching the last rupee and making it go a long way. And she managed it with dignity and humility. It couldn't have been easy despite from cousins putting each of the children of 5 boys and 2 girls through school and professional college, yet she managed. When her husband retired, they finally set up a permanent home together. And in the evening of their lives, they changed from my mother-in-law into small ways. She could fly anywhere things to her pilot's son, and money was no longer such an issue. But she continued to be her thrifty self and was, as always, loath to ask anyone for anything, her children included. One boy she lost in an air crash. He had been the part of the cabin crew. She was always unafraid to meet adversity or disappointment with quite about, but unending determination, unbending. Going to Canada alone to visit her Canadian daughter-in-law family on her first ever visit to anywhere. She was stranded at Heathrow due to the flash strike. Everything was at 60s and 70s. But she somehow convinced the airlines to look after her till the strike ended, while others were made to fend for themselves. It was this quiet, steely resolve that was hallmark of her character. She did everything with so much grace and dignity that even when people were unable to do what she thought she wanted, they would still go out of the way to help her. After her husband died, she refused to move in with her children, preferring to visit them in turns or have them visit her whenever possible. Her house was a mere action hall. At any given point of time, she had friends, family, and extended family drop in to hear the proud stories of what the children were up to and enjoy the delicacies she still constantly churned out. Thus, it was from her nieces that we first heard about her now newly acquired habit of repetition. None of us took it seriously, or maybe we didn't want to. She was still traveling the world alone and was managing very well, and so we believed, except for looking amused or rather exasperately, telling her not to repeat herself so often. Everyone went about his or own busy, selfish business. It took us a long time to realize that she was indeed very ill, all that and that all illnesses do not always necessarily manifest themselves physically. On the outing once, she began picking up Pepsi cups from the street, but because they were shiny and pretty. With each such episode, we would be in embarrassment, resort to impatiently chiding her or sharply taking her to task. Not for a moment did we stop to ponder the reason behind her behavior. In another instance, we found her opening the front door late at night, following her silently, wondering what she was up to. We found that she was totally lost in every sense of the word. She seemed not to know where she was or who we were. But within seconds, she appeared to be her normal self and told us quite charmingly that she was looking for her mother. On another occasion, we found her prone on the floor. She didn't seem to know where she had got there. The innocuous but incomprehensible incident of the finger bowl was to follow, and it seemed in notion to realization the repercussions of which impacted our lives instantly and immediately forever. There's followed that we were told that the Alzheimer and that there was no cure, that she put on Exelon. The sign had been there for us to see, but all her children and their families had not visited or tried to find out why their normally clued in mother was behaving so. We had put them down to old age, or perhaps again it was the state of denial, a sense of withdrawal. Hard to tell. It was maybe easy to pretend that they were normal lapses and thus explainable. In our defense, all I can say is that we simply did not know that it was a disease at all. It was also something that none of us knew how to comprehend, let alone handle or even realize that we were in it. for a long haul. On good days, she remembered who we were. On other days, she lived in the past, constantly looking for her mother, frenziedly packing and repacking a suitcase to go somewhere, or waiting for her school-going children. She would also at times revert to her youth. One particularly poignant episode when she saw herself in the mirror and asked us who it was. When told, she argued it was not, and then asked for her lipstick and eyeliner to look better. Sadly, other than her mind, there was really nothing at all wrong with her. There were times when we debated endlessly on what was worse, her physical or mental illness. The latter wins, hands down, any day. She grew more cunning each day, adept at hiding things from us or running out through the front door. Luckily for us, everyone knew her and for her condition and would bring her back. We began chaining the gate, locking the doors, and hiding the keys. Her loss of dignity was complete, and that, more than anything else, is what is as awful about this dreadful disease. My mother-in-law lived till she turned 90 last year, gradually getting worse, with flashes of awareness becoming less frequent as the months went by. From the soft-spoken, gentle soul that she had been, she was now just the opposite, also now prone to illogical tantrums. She was virulent in her anger and terrifyingly vocal. She was in turns childlike or frighteningly abusive. She no longer. The person we had known in the life became difficult for all of us. We were told these were all classic symptoms of the overcompromising disease. She was apparently happy in her own world. It was who we had to learn how to cope, and we were not coping too well. We hired a trained permanent companion to live with her and visited her in turns. There was very little else we could do, though we have been told that we couldn't have done anything differently. More than a touch of regret remains. We were slow to realize that it was Alzheimer's, and that it was a disease, yes, like no other, but a disease all the same, an abnormal behavior disease brought on by the physiological changes in the brain. It was not an embarrassment, not a lack of manners or a lack of comportment. It indeed to be handled differently, yes, but treated medically as well, with compassion and patience, with medicine and care, and above all, it was a family and not a patient who needed to be counseled into coping, and that is perhaps where we fell short. The finger bowl is totally a constant reminder. Wow. The King of Kings. My Guru. It was 15 days before Diwali, and I was sorting through the cupboards. Every Diwali I curse myself for accumulating so much throughout the year. Here were the saris that I had not used since my marriage. I sighed and thought that perhaps I would need them again for some family occasion, and I put them back inside. Here were the children's storybooks that were too old to read now. I rationalized that I would read them out to my grandchildren, and back in my cupboard they went. The number of the things that we had in the house was incredible. There was a little glass violin that had a